Great, thank you. The time is now 7:00 p.m. and the executive session has been concluded. Will all participants in the executive session please state their names for the record?
Mel Carr.
Kelly Case.
Carol Harving.
Hillary LaBarre.
Noel Sawyer.
Aaron Smith.
Suzanne LeClaire.
Thank you. Mr. Volpe, thank you. If any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I ask you to state your concerns now. Hearing none, the next agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to everybody tonight. We will start with ceremonies, presentations, and appointments, and turn it over to Suzanne LeClaire. Suzanne, can we start with Park and Rec's advisory first, please?
Absolutely, Mayor Levy. This evening we have an appointment to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. There are currently 2 positions that are open, and we received an application from Lanine Kleppe, who is here with us this evening in the audience, available for questions. And if council should appoint her, I can swear her in later.
Great. That sounds good. Ms. Kleppe, would you like to come forward? How are you? If you'll go to the microphone and just start by giving us your name and address, please.
My name's Lanine Kleppe, and I...
It was on, I think.
Hello? No?
I think you got it.
Yeah? All right, so I'm Lanine Kleppe, and I live at 1185 Karen Lane in Woodland Park.
Great. And you're here to apply for the Park and Rec Advisory Board?
I am, yes.
Great. Can you give us a little background why you're interested? Those kinds of things.
I am a mother of 4, and we are an active duty military family. And we just recently found out that we're going to be staying in Woodland Park. We have 1 more year in the military, and then we're going to retire and stay here. So we decided to buy a house and stay in Woodland Park. And I thought that now that we're going to live here, that it was kind of time to not just do kid activities, because I do a lot for my kids, but now it's time to really start coming out and doing more for the community. So that's why.
That's great. Start by saying thanks for your service, your family.
Oh, thank you. It's our pleasure.
Everything you do, and I get to hang around with her a little bit because we got kids that associate, play hockey, and all kinds of things. Council, we have questions for Ms. Kleppe. We have 1 position and 1 applicant. So in a sense,
Pressure's
you're
off.
Pretty. You know what? Here's even better news. We have 2 positions and 1 applicant.
It's going to be really embarrassing.
Council, if we have nothing, then just like to entertain a motion to approve Ms. Kleppe to the Park and Rec Advisory Board.
I'll move to approve her to the Park and Rec Advisory Board.
Second. And a second from Mr. Carr. Suzanne.
Thank you. Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
LaBarre? Yes. Levy?
Yes.
Sonier? Sawyer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Please do. Yes. So while she's signing, folks in the audience, encourage your neighbors, friends that would like to be part of the community and a great board. We still need an applicant for the Park and Rec Advisory Board as we move forward. So thanks very much. Again, Lenine, thank you. Okay, before we move on, Council, I just have a thought, and I just want to have a short discussion, if you're willing. Relative to the DDA authority and the appointment, we have 4 candidates for 2 positions tonight. We have a pending lawsuit that will have a verdict handed down in the next 60 days or so. And my thought is this, and so I'd like to have possibly some discussion or see what everybody thinks at least. I would like to put this decision off for 60 days or at least until the result of the lawsuit is over, all the while keeping Mary Jo Larson and Jan Wilson on the board until, in fact, we make that decision. I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Smith to see if that's even legal, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The question is, does Council have the discretion to make the appointments when Council chooses to make the appointments? And yes, the answer to that is that Council does. This is essentially a legislative, political decision on the part of Council, and you've got that discretion. This statute does say that in the event that you were to delay that, making that decision, the current members would continue to hold office, and they would do so until their successors have been appointed and qualified. So I am happy to answer any questions.
Thoughts, Carol?
If the position were vacant, we do have an obligation to fill it within 30 days, correct?
Correct. If the members were to resign and then a vacancy were created, then the statute requires that you fill that within 30 days of that vacancy.
Follow-on question. Assuming, well, we know at this point in time those positions are not vacant, they are, the incumbents are in those positions. Is there a recommendation that Council would make on how long we would wait, or can we simply tie it to an event?
You could simply tie it to an event. You could just ask for, you could set it off to a date certain with the possibility that you would extend it again, or you could tie it to an event.
Hillary?
I agree with you. However,
And just my thought on that, and everybody will speak, but my thought on that is we'll just have more information, and we'll have an outcome of the lawsuit, and that may or may not sway anybody. It may not make any difference, and so clearly I see 2 sides, and I'm not falling on my sword for this, but I think that for me, it just makes sense for me. Kelly?
I would say that according to the attorneys for the DDA, that judgment could come down in 60 days. It could be a year. There's no telling when the judge would choose to issue his judgment on the case. So, and as Hillary pointed out, we wouldn't be able to take any more applications, and we might even lose some. There may be some that applied that may not be interested at the time that we would make that decision in the future. So I don't see the benefit of putting off the decision.
A couple of things that I just want to respond. Is it correct that we couldn't increase that pool if we moved the date? If somebody else wanted to apply?
Oh, I see. Council absolutely could. You could open.
take anybody we
pool.
want?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
And then the second part of that is, I was under the understanding, and I forgot where I got all the information, maybe you know, was there any indication at DDA from anybody? Because I was under the understanding that the judge was going to make the decision and render that decision in August. He's a retired judge that's working just this case, and that he was going to have a decision in August.
He very well could. I'm of the understanding that it's entirely at his discretion. I don't know that I'm not aware that he made a commitment.
Anybody else? Val?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My inclination is go ahead with a vote, and the reason is we've kind of done this way for as long as I've been on council and been going to meetings. People put their applications in good faith, and I feel our due diligence is not going to be any greater in 2 months or a year or whatever it is. I would prefer we go ahead and vote tonight, because I don't see a real compelling reason to go until the verdict, unless we're trying to look for some reason to blame somebody. That is hard for me to do as a council person. I don't associate blame with the board members at this point. So my preference would be that we take a vote tonight.
Okay, Noel?
Mr. Mayor, I agree with your thoughts. I disagree with the way you're bringing it forward based on your logic. We should have postponed the vote 2 weeks ago because it was in the middle of the trial then too. And with that logic, we should have postponed the vote before that, and the vote before that, and the vote before that, because this trial's been going on for 2 years. So just because this trial is going on doesn't mean we should stop putting people or re-electing people for the DDA. So I think we should continue with this and do what we're supposed to do tonight and elect new board members.
Sounds good. Anyone else want to weigh in? No, I see 1, 2, 3 at least that want to move forward. I just need some consensus. Paul, do you want to move forward? Okay. That said, we have a consensus, and we will move forward. And Suzanne?
Thank you, Mayor Levy. There are currently 2 terms on the DDA Board of Directors that will expire on June 30th, 2018. What's the matter?
Suzanne, we'd like to interrupt there and bring up just a concern that we have. And Paul, do you want to bring that up? Or do I have?
No,
hold on.
Your mic is not on.
Oh,
Just
your mic's
check
on.
your mic, Paul. Your mic's not.
And Noel, let's let Suzanne finish, and we'll come right to you.
Okay, fair
Okay?
enough.
Also, just quickly, before a vote takes place, I will recuse myself because my father-in-law is one of the applicants. So,
Another point of order. This is something I brought up a year ago when we did our DDA board. There's a part of a statute. There's a part of a statute that we haven't put in our postings normally, but the majority of the DDA people have to be owners or residents of the district. So we have 5 of 9 right now, with 2 of those slots being up, which means we've got 3 of 9 potential. So we can only vote for people who are in the district as residents or owners.
I think everyone's aware of that.
Aaron, is that?
It's in the memo.
Yeah, it's in the staff memo. The only one that I'm not certain about, and maybe if I can quickly ask, is Nikki, do you live or own a business or reside? Okay.
Not in Woodland Park, in the DDA. Do you own a business in the DDA?
Own the building.
Okay.
Point of
Business or
order.
building.
Let me
Sir.
I can read the statute to you.
Doesn't sound like, I mean, everyone's on the same page. I
Well,
think.
no, it's not own a business, it's own property.
It's
There's a
just
difference.
own property.
Yeah, it's own property or reside. So a majority of the members appointed shall reside or own property in the downtown development district.
So I can do business in the DDA, not owning it, and
No.
not be eligible.
No, incorrect. There has to be a majority of property owners on the DDA. So currently there are 5 owners of property, 2 currently up for reappointment. So if those 2 go away, then that would actually open up a vacancy, because I'm not sure if one of the applicants is qualified. See, so it's kind of a catch-22 at the moment.
Okay, we'll get to that when we
Okay.
interview the applicants.
Fair enough.
Suzanne?
Okay. There's currently 2 openings on the DDA. And they expire June 30th. The positions that are expiring are held by Jan Wilson and Mary Jo Larson currently. The new terms of these offices will expire June 30th, 2022. As per council's policy, the clerk's office has advertised it in the manner that's acceptable to the council. The city clerk's office received 4 applications for these 2 spots. 2 of the 4 applications received were from the incumbents, Mary Jo Larson and Jan Wilson. The other 2 applications that were received were from Nikki Parsons and Pete Labar, and both of them are here in the audience. I've seen them, and I've seen everyone actually besides Jan. Is Jan here? There she is. I couldn't see you back there. So all of the applicants are here this evening, and we can do the typical interview process that you would like and voting process, and just let me know how you'd like to proceed.
We're going to proceed alphabetically, and Kip's going to be our sergeant at arms, and we will start with Mary Jo Larson. And the other 3, if you'd like, you'll be sequestered. Kip will take you outside, and we'll take you one at a time.
Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
One second.
My name is,
Just 1 minute, I'm sorry. Mary Jo, no, I'm just waiting for Hillary.
oh, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Is it on?
It is on.
I am very proud that the DDA has got 4 applicants for this position. It must mean we're doing something right finally. I'm looking forward to continue serving in this position on DDA. I think we've come on a long, hard road. I feel very good about the board we have now. We do not have a consensus in thought. We definitely have some differences of opinion, but we're working well together. We're having some dynamic conversations, and I believe that every person on our board right now has the best interests of the public and the taxpayers in mind, and the town of Woodland Park. We really want it to see grow and be healthy. We're ready now to move forward. We want to have some positive activity. We've had a lot of tough months, I hope, behind us, and we're really looking forward to a positive moving forward time. We'll have a new manager. We have new members on the council. We've got some new ideas, and we're excited about moving forward in the next year plus. We are very concerned, and me especially, are very concerned about fairness. We want to be as open as we possibly can. Any decision that we make, I really do feel it's important we have all the information we can possibly come up before we make that decision. And I think the whole board is in tune to that, following our foundation plan, and I would really like and appreciate if we could hold our board together and move forward in a positive direction.
Great. Thanks, Mary Jo. Who would like to start? Noel, you had your hand up.
It moved up, but yes. Thank you, Mary Jo. I do realize you're chair, and we worked together, and I was vice chair, and it was some uphill battles that we had for the last 3 years, actually. Has it been 3 years? I think the DDA has definitely moved forward. A lot of bad press, not needed, but a lot of good press at the same time. And so I do appreciate you being a chair, and I truly believe you are in a good position. So I'm going to ask every candidate this, or candidate or applicant, it's probably better. So I'm looking at your your application here, and what I'm going to do is read what you wrote, and then I'd like you to just elaborate more.
Okay.
All right. Smile. There you go. Why do you want to serve on the DDA board? This is what you put. And if I'm off on your writing, it's a little challenging. I'm sorry. I want the DDA to continue to move forward serving the businesses and growth of Woodland Park. There is an honest and sincere group of people working for the community, and I would like to continue that. Would you like to add to that?
I don't think I need to. I think that we definitely feel that way. I don't know how I could be any more explicit in saying that we really do have the best interest of Woodland Park today, now, and how we move forward.
Great, thank you. So in one of the other questions, what, in your opinion, are the 3 most pressing issues facing the City of Woodland Park relative to the board commission for which you are applying? Number 1, which I agree with, paying DDA debt. Number 2, building bridges between the City Council and other things, city staff and DDA.
Yes.
Oh, city manager, that's it. Number 3, bring new small businesses as well as needed growth, not just growth.
Yes.
Hold on,
yes.
Is there more? I don't know. Nope, there's more. Would you like to continue with that?
Well, I'm not against big box at all, but I do think that it's important for a small town to have all sizes of businesses, from mom and pop to the medium business, employ more employees, and then the big box too. So I'm not against any of that. I think a balance is very important, and I think the thought of how they fit into our community, there are things that we need here. There are businesses that we need in this town. We don't need to duplicate the things we already have. And I would really like to see this board move forward and try to reach out and bring some of that to this community.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your service on the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Val?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A real simple question. I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask it of all the candidates, which is, do you own a property in the district overlay, or are you a resident?
No, I own property.
Thank you.
Yes.
Carol?
Mary Jo,
Yes.
you've been here long enough that you can tell us what you believe the successes of DDA have been over the years. Could you share those with us?
Some of them, yes. I know that I feel very proud because we do not have one DDA project from the very beginning, even with all of the misunderstandings and the whatever happened, we've not had a failure. And that's very important. And I think that we've done some good things. I think that we've got a lot to work on still. And now that we are kind of a standalone, we understand it. I think a lot of the problem when the DDA started is that no one really understood how TIF really worked and how to really use it. And I do think that this board has, they volunteer their time, they have given up and gone the extra 10 miles so that we do not have to pay staff, so that we can focus on our debt, and we can really give the opportunity of the community to what monies we do have to participate in those funds for development, for positive things. Again, we all know about the lawsuit and what a hiccup that turned out to be, but it was an unfortunate thing. We're very sorry it happened, but it is what it is. We're reaching an end. We need to move forward. It's a new day. We have a new manager. We have new council. We have some new directors on DDA, even as we speak. We feel good. We feel positive. We feel like we're ready for whatever comes our way. We just talked to Dan Taylor, and I think that in his requests, how to move forward with his development, because money was tight, I think we came to an agreement that he was pleased with. He said he was anyway, that he was pleased with. His money man was pleased with it. We were all pleased. I think it's a fair thing for the taxpayers. So, I mean, how does it get better than that? You know, and I think that we can have more of those.
Thank you.
Anybody else for Mary Jo? Paul?
I'm going to ask you all a question. Communications back and forth. Have you spoken with people about how they communicate with them, conduct their business like that?
We have, and we're going to continue to work on that. We have some ideas moving forward immediately. Again, new manager, new staff, and we want to build those bridges, and we want to have our communications on a much higher level, yes, and open and transparent. We really want to be that. We're now videoing our meetings live on your channel. Thank you, City, for allowing us to do that. We've got a newsletter published in the Mountain Jackpot. We're going to try to educate the public on what TIF is and how to use it. We're about to come to our term limit of 13 years, probably a little closer to 12 now, and we have to finish our job to fit within that time frame, and we're very focused on that, and anything we do in the future will have to fit somehow in that time frame, even if it extends.
No?
So as I was leaving the DDA, we were talking about emails for all the DDA members. We were talking about a Facebook page. We were talking about rules of conduct on the members, on how they update Facebook and how they respond to emails. Is that being, since you are chair, is that being addressed?
Yes. Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit more?
We're moving forward with that right away. After this appointment, if I am still there and still remain chairman, I have already spoken to several. Betty Clarkwine is going to be in our August meeting. She's going to explain to our new members, to us again, and to the public, TIF, how TIF works, how it works on a county level out of the assessor's office, so we all can understand it better. We have created a document that if someone is interested in a new development, they have a guideline for TIF that they can pick up in their packet from the city. We're going to move forward on that. We're going to be much more informative of what TIF is and how it works and how we can apply it to our city today.
I guess my question was more based on code of conduct.
Oh, yes, that definitely
that
is.
to me is very important because
Yes.
the DDA has been beat up quite extensively in the last several years, and so I think that's something that needs to be addressed.
It is.
As chair, can you elaborate on that?
We tried to do that twice last year, but the lawsuit seemed to get in the way each time we were moving forward with that for whatever reason. Now we will move forward with that ASAP just because we have new members.
Excellent, thank you.
Mary Jo, it concerns me that a lawsuit gets in the way of DDA's code of conduct. It really does. To me, it borders on ridiculous. Your first statement in the application is you're concerned about the debt. You're going to incur more debt as a result of the lawsuit, or there's a very good chance. Can you tell us, have there been any discussions, because I know there's issues in how that's going to be paid. Can you help our citizens understand how we're going to pay that debt?
We're reaching out. We are identifying the problem. We're reaching out we're determining what our needs are, and we're going to reach out into the surrounding areas and even further if need be to find new development and new projects to bring in to help increase our tax base so that can be paid.
But today, if your bill came and you're going to reach out, I understand you're going to try to do more business to help pay for that. What's the option today?
Today, that would have to be some brainstorming with Mike. We have got some. We would have to cut back. Not that we're going to spend a lot, but we would have to cut back in some areas. It would be tight, but we could do part of it, maybe all of it, without Tanner here. He is our treasurer, and without the new, I guess, tax. What am I trying to say? The new tax evaluation. Thank you, and how to determine how we're going to come into the next year. That will have to be determined. We're working now on an idea to move forward, and I think you probably know. I don't know how far it is out into the public, but we've got to do a little more research so we've got facts and not just wild estimates. I would say we need facts, and then I can give you an exact answer on that. But we've had many discussions about
We're talking about facts relative to attorney's fees.
Mayor, I'd like to interject here. I don't feel like this is appropriate questioning for an interview. Maybe for a DDA report, this would be good questioning. But if we ask the same questions to two of the applicants that are not on the DDA, how would they answer that? They wouldn't know how. So maybe this is more of a DDA report line of questioning that I feel that question's inappropriate.
And I would interject here too, as I plan to give a report this evening in council reports with regards to the DDA and their financial status and some things that I hope to share with the council this evening.
Sure.
So I can elaborate on that too.
And that's part of the bridges that we want to build is our communications, not only with city, but city staff as well, and council, DDA, and we're concerned Main Street as well. They're an active player in our development of our city.
Great. Anybody else? Mary Jo, thanks very much. Thanks for your service. It does really turn things around, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on with Pete LaBar. And I might have got that wrong.
No, you got it. Wilson.
Alphabetical?
Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson's last.
No, I know that, but
Labar's good.
is LaBar good? L-E?
LA.
L-A, L-A-B, and one's L-A-R, so I did get it wrong.
It's LAB. A-R-R-E.
Should have had LaBar first.
We should.
That's what I was referring to.
Way to go.
All right, I was only one letter off. Good afternoon, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor.
Give us your name and address.
Pete LaBar, 750 East U.S. Highway 24, Woodland Park, Colorado, 80863.
Thank you. And Pete was here a couple of weeks ago applying for the same position. And so, council, you know why he's here. Who would like to start with the questioning? Go ahead, Noel.
Why don't we go in the same order? Thank you for being here, Pete. Round two. So let's see if your answers are... I'm going to ask the same questions I asked last time, so let's see how you do this time. All right, so the first question is, why do you want to serve on the Downtown Development Authority? Your answer is, I believe I can represent the interest of Woodland Park business community and bring fresh ideas. Would you like to elaborate on that? Maybe some example of some fresh ideas?
Well, as I mentioned last time I was here, I think right now the board consists predominantly of retail owners. It is the Downtown Development Authority. I do have experience in development, And I think that's one area that I could assist the authority. Fresh ideas, new ideas. You know, one of the things that I thought about since I was here last time, and one of the things that I experienced when I went through the TIF process down in Fountain, was they had a set parameters of how the TIF is administrated. And I think that would be helpful for the DDA as well, if they had a defined set of parameters, so when somebody was applying for TIF, they would know what to expect, know what they need to provide to meet at least the minimum criteria. I still think that the DDA, though, needs to approve and look at each applicant individually rather than just doing a blanket for those approvals.
Good God, help.
Yes.
Pardon me.
That's okay.
I'm turning it off. Pardon.
Go ahead.
I'm good.
All right. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
What, in your opinion, are the three most pressing issues facing the city of Woodland Park relative to board commission for which you are applying? The three you gave was housing, qualified employees, business development, and growth. I guess that's four, right? But that's okay.
Well, business development and growth are
Right.
kind of hand in hand. Again, you know, housing I think is number one, and that's certainly a personal bias. Without beds, you don't get heads. Without heads, you don't grow your business. And I think that by the housing crisis that we have throughout the state, and the housing crisis to some degree that we have here in Woodland Park, or not by some degree, we have a housing crisis here. It's been talked about multiple times. So I think that really is the number one thing. Where people who work in the community can't afford to live in the community, I see that as a negative. If they work here, go home, go out to eat someplace else, down in the Springs, wherever it may be, those revenues, those dollars are going to other businesses. It's being drained out of the community. So that's, to me, that's first and foremost. The development side of things, you know, really goes to partially tax problems, high taxes that people pay here, businesses pay here in Woodland Park, comparative to other locations in the Pikes Peak region. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I do know that there may be things that we can do to mitigate some of that. One of the things that I've suggested at a DDA board meeting previously was businesses, especially retailers, when they collect sales tax, 80% of most retailers' proceeds or revenue comes through the use of credit cards. And the retailer pays for the privilege of collecting tax for the city. And usually that's about 3%. In my view, the city, all cities, all communities, all tax entities should reimburse businesses for the privilege that they have of collecting tax for those communities. The state does that, the county does that. They offer a 0.033% rebate, I guess you call it, for collecting tax for those two entities. And that's certainly one way that the city could help offset some of that expense to businesses.
So I'd like to ask one more question, if that's okay with council. Go. Okay. So you said it's hard to do business up here because of the taxes. Can you give me a comparison between Colorado Springs taxes and Woodland Park taxes? And business-wise, if I had a chart, where would the biggest differences be?
Real estate taxes, which obviously the city doesn't really have.
Property taxes?
Property taxes, yeah.
Okay, aren't they the same regardless because it's mandated by the state?
No. Well, the allocation of 29%
right.
is the same. But I'll give you an example.
Sure.
We own the Denny's at Circle and I-25, Lake and I-25, one of the busiest exits on the interstate. We owned a Denny's here in Woodland Park. Our property taxes in Woodland Park at that time, or in Colorado Springs at the time were about $7,000 a year.
Okay.
Our property taxes up here at that time, I believe, were about $18,000. So to put it in comparison, when you have businesses that operate on the margins, that marginal dollar difference has a huge impact on your bottom line. And so the amount of goods that the respective business would have to sell to make up that differential just takes time. And so to me, when you have high real estate taxes, what you do is you hold down property values, and you also create an environment where businesses struggle on the margins.
Okay, so isn't the property tax determined by the county?
It's determined by the county, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Val?
Thank you. Mr. LeVar, I kind of know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask each candidate anyway. So, one of the qualifiers tonight is a majority of the members of the DDA appointed shall reside or own property in the district. Do you own property in the district or reside in the district?
I own property in the district.
Thank you.
I would also like to bring to your attention in our staff report, the CRS 31-25-806 also says be a business lessee.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else for Mr. LeVar? Sir, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
And Mayor and Council, I just want to address Councilwoman Case's comment. That is part of the qualification to serve on the board, but then there is in addition a statutory requirement that a majority of the board, and that lessee falls out of satisfying that majority requirement. Thank you.
Okay, Brandy Parsons. Hello. If you'll just start by giving us your name and address, please.
Nikki Parsons, 715 West Bowman Avenue, Woodland Park.
Great. Thanks again for being here. In interest of time, I know you were here before, and we're just going to start by asking some questions, if you like, and we're going to start with Mr. Sawyer.
Okay. Hi, Nikki. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you doing?
Welcome back, round two. I'm going to ask the same questions I asked last time. I'm sure you've thought about them since, I hope. Probably not. Who knows? Thank you for your application. It shows commitment to the community. Why do you want to serve on the DDA? Your answer: I am a local business owner, and I am a mom that would like to see Woodland Park maintain the special qualities and appearance of the downtown area. Would you like to add to that?
I think that's a really good summed up. My husband's military, and he retired out of the Army after 25 and a half years.
Okay.
And so I've gotten the opportunity to live in a lot of different places. So I really do understand how unique and special Woodland Park is. And this is the place we chose. Out of all the places we've lived, I chose Woodland Park to stay, raise my kids, and open a business.
I normally ask the second question, but I'm going to veer from that a little bit. Since you're a business owner in town, actually, no, I'm going to go back to the question. Keep it the same for everybody. What, in your opinion, are the three most pressing issues facing the city of Woodland Park relative to the board commission for which you are applying? For you, number one, maintaining standards to improve property values. Number two, negotiating TIFs that improve businesses in Woodland Park. And there is no number three, so you can add the number three.
Oh my gosh. I think preventing blight, preventing businesses that move in without the understanding or finances that it takes to develop a property. There's a lot, construction is always over budget and over time. And just having an understanding that maybe the TIF isn't the thing that fixes that.
Right. I'm going to ask one more question, if that's okay. Since our last meeting, have you had a chance to look over a TIF and understand how that works?
A little bit. I'm still talking to a couple people about it to understand it better. But I understand the basic principle that someone can come in and say, this is what I want to do. I want to develop this property. These are the public benefits of what I'm going to do, like sidewalks or sewers or things that the rest of the public will use.
Right.
And then they can apply to have the city reimburse them over time through their property taxes.
Close, yes. So, A for effort. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. I've been asking the same question of everybody, so I'll ask you too. Do you reside in the downtown district? Is your residence in the downtown district?
I'm in Woodland, like Bowman, so I don't, like, does someone live in the downtown strip, or?
They can live on the outskirts a little bit, yeah. 'Cause there's
Like, I'm 2 blocks from 24.
Okay. Do you own property in the district overlay?
I do not own business property in the district. We just own our house.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Brandy, thank you very much for being here.
All right, thanks.
Oh, Nikki, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
How did I get Brandy?
That's her name.
Oh, that's her name. Oh. That's how I got it. It's her name.
All right, whose is that?
Right on.
Next is Jan Wilson. Leah, let's
Could be
check our mics. Why we have this
Hillary.
problem?
Could be Hillary.
I think it could be Hillary. That's a great point. We'll have. She might still be on.
hers is right there.
Oh, it is right there. Okay. Laura, you have any idea what the issue is? Okay, well, it's off now, so let's keep it that way. Okay. Good afternoon, good evening, Jan. If you'll just give us name and address.
You want my business address or my home address?
Let's give both.
Okay, Jan Wilson. My business is at 108 West Midland Avenue in Woodland Park, and my home is 2320 Rampart Range Road in Woodland Park.
Great. We'll start by giving you, a minute or so on why you're here today.
My appointment to the DDA expires on June 30th, and I've reapplied for appointment on there. I enjoy being on the DDA and hopefully being part of a solution and not a problem.
Great. We're going to start. I think we'll start with Val because he's got a question you can answer easily.
I know the answer to this, but I'm asking everybody the same thing. Do you reside in the downtown development district overlay?
I own the business, the building, rather, that's in the DDA.
That's the second part of the question. Do you own property in the district?
Yes,
You
sir.
just said yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Noel.
Thank you, Jan. How long have you been on the DDA?
Now, you know I'm very bad at dates. I'm going to say 2 terms.
2 terms, so 8 years. And so this will be your 3rd term.
Correct.
What I'm going to do is ask you a question that you've already answered in your application, and I just want you to elaborate more on it.
Okay.
The question, why do you want to serve on the DDA Board of Directors? Your answer, I want to be part of the solution to promote Woodland Park. I'd like to see businesses here thrive, and I want to be part of anything positive that will make Woodland Park flourish. Would you like to add to that, or maybe point out some successes that you've had with the DDA?
I enjoy working on the DDA, and I support all the businesses up here, but I would really like to see more come up here. More individual businesses, like small businesses, because nobody's going to drive here for a Kmart or probably our Walmart, I don't know. People traveling through that are going someplace else would stop there, but not to come up for a day to shop in those stores. But we do have a few stores here that they don't have any place else, like Williams Furniture or Tweeds or the Kitchen Store. And when I had my business in the building, people came to shop here in those stores, and I would like to see more of those come here and work with the board to figure out a way that we can entice those type of businesses to come here.
So part of my question.
Can I interrupt a second? Could you pull the mic so you're speaking directly into it?
Sorry.
Yeah, that way they'll pick up
Is
on
that
the
better?
internet. Yeah, right straight
Because
into the
I
mic.
can't hear whether it's loud enough
Yeah,
or not.
no, you have to speak straight into it.
Okay,
There
how's
you
that?
go.
Is that
Thank
better?
You.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Not so much for us, but for the viewers at home.
Sure.
Go ahead, Noel.
So the second part of the question was, can you name some of the successes you've been a part of on the DDA board?
The TIF agreements that we've come up with that have helped businesses. We have one in the works right now that I'm kind of excited about. He's planning a coffee. I believe they call it a kiosk because it's not something that you could go into. But we're going to have hopefully we'll have a car wash that is a little bit more than just drive through and do it yourself. So the coffee kiosk would be helping him to get some money to help get that started. So,
successes like the Woodland Station grading, and can you elaborate on any of that?
yes, we are. I know that there's been a lot of there were a lot of plans before I even got on DDA for an event center, different types of things to come in there. Right now we have a plan that to grade it so that people could hold events there that they are here in town. I don't know if the Oktoberfest would want to go there. Vino and Oats has been there, but we are grading it and we planted grass seed there. It's also going to be offered for RV parking because that's quite limited here in town.
Okay, so a lot of positive stuff going on in the background with the committees of the DDA that a lot of people aren't aware of.
That's correct.
Got it. All right, so the second question, what, in your opinion, are the three most pressing issues facing the city, it's not me, relative to the board commission for which they are applying? Number one, you said supporting and developing small businesses in Woodland Park. Number two, universal marketing of Woodland Park. That's an interesting one. Number three, bringing commercial property taxes in line with the reality of today's market. And that was brought up by another applicant. Would you like to expand on those three or add a fourth?
Property taxes, that's kind of governed by the state, but there could be some things that we could investigate and do. There's been talk about using our addresses on the back side of the building instead of right on Highway 24. I don't know enough about that to know if that would be very advantageous or not. Universal marketing of our town. Now this is a crossover from Main Street because I am on the Main Street board, where we've joined the Colorado Springs Visitor Bureau, that their marketing goes out to like 3 million people, and Woodland Park is now part of that. We just did that, so I can't give you any figures about how that would, what kind of results we're getting from that, but...
Just to add to that, I know there's a lot of other things that you're not thinking of that I know that you've done. Recently, you did some stuff behind the Ute, I believe. Can you elaborate on that?
Oh, the cow hand.
The cow hand, thank you.
Yes, the cow hand. There were planters purchased to make that, I'm going to use the word patio for lack of a better term, where somebody would like to sit and enjoy lunch or just visiting with somebody or whatever. So we went over there. I did pass by there, and there was a lady sitting not quite by the dumpster, but pretty much over there, and she was eating, and I felt really bad for her. So we went over, I went over with two people from the Main Street board, and, they were not on the board, they were connected with Main Street. And we went over and we took everything that was there, rearranged it, stained the planters, put flowers in there, and it's a work in progress, but we've gotten feedback that they really enjoy sitting over there.
So there's a lot of things that you're doing in the background that, you're not going out tooting your own horn. And I appreciate everything you're doing, and I know a lot that you do, and I know how dedicated you are to this community. The one thing I do want to add is I believe you're banned from email usage now. Is that true?
By you.
By me. So, thank you.
Okay, anybody else, council? Okay, Jan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet. Suzanne?
Mayor Levy, I have ballots that I can...
Terrific.
count.
Let's have the ballots.
So remember, council, you have to put 2 names down.
I'm going to do the best I can. Thanks. There's one back. Can you read them? Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I didn't see Pete. There he is. They're all here.
They are in.
They all just arrived. Thank you, Kip.
Okay, Mayor Levy, I will read the votes into the record.
Thank you.
So Mayor Levy has voted for Labar and Larson. Mayor Pro Tem Carr has voted for Wilson and Larson. Councilmember Case has voted for Larson and Wilson. Councilmember Harvey has voted for Larson and Labar. Councilmember Soinier has voted for Larson and Wilson. And Councilmember Sawyer has voted for Larson and Wilson. So to me, it looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for Labar.
Oh, that couldn't be right.
Larson, excuse me, pardon me. 6 for Larson, 4 for Wilson, and 2 for Labar. So it would be Larson and Wilson appointed.
Okay, great. Are you going to swear them in now?
I would like to, if that's okay with you.
Please. And she's back.
I'd like to invite Mary Jo and Jan. Raise your right hand and then state your name. I solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Yeah.
and of the state of Colorado, the charter and ordinances of the city of Woodland Park, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of member of the Downtown Development Authority Board of Directors of the DDA Board, on which I am about to exit. Congratulations, Pam.
Okay, council, while they're signing, and for the audience, we are going to move to item number 3F on your agenda, and we will get back to everybody else shortly.
You keep the nice one. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Suzanne. Jan and Mary Jo, congratulations, and look forward to working with everybody these next couple of years. Thank you very much. You bet. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to 3F and recognizing one of our own, Greg Schilling. I shouldn't say most. We're a big city these days. A lot of you knew Greg and everything that he did for our community over a number of years, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But he passed about a month ago. I don't have the date in front of me, but for close to 40 years, he's been integral in our community. I'm going to read the proclamation that recognizes him and the date that we're going to proclaim for him. And then if anybody in the audience would like to add on and speak, we would certainly welcome your thoughts, because Greg was, for those that knew him, knew how instrumental he was in our community. And so I'm going to read the proclamation, and if you'll listen closely, you'll get a very, very small idea of everything that he accomplished. Whereas Greg Schilling started and ran Help the Needy, a well-known and highly respected 501c3, which is still serving the community after 37 years. Whereas Greg Schilling, during the Hayman Fire, put together and ran the Forest Fire Victims Task Force, bringing together the resources provided by multiple agencies in an easy-to-reach, one-stop shop for those suffering losses in the fire. Whereas Greg Schilling brought the Red Cross blood drive to our community. Whereas Greg Schilling began an after-school program for children whose parents were working. Whereas Greg Schilling began bringing government commodities to the community, which is now the community cupboard. Whereas Greg Schilling began the clothes closet, specifically to provide coats and clothing to children in need. Whereas Greg Schilling served as a voice for the poor at Teller County Commission meetings for many years, and whereas Greg Schilling worked with the state representatives to revamp the welfare rules to be a more effective use of funds. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Neil Levy, Mayor of the City of Woodland Park, do hereby proclaim July 5th, 1 week from today, 2018, as Greg Schilling Day.
Somebody who did that much for this county deserves to stand for me.
I'll stand with you.
Thank you, Paul. You can all be seated. I see Peggy Schilling's here in the front row, and a lot of you know her. Geez, Peggy, I don't know what to say. I'm going to give you this mayor's pin in honor of Greg. It's the smallest token of appreciation that I can possibly offer. You know what he meant to us. I know what he meant to you and your family. I know how much you'll be missed. And I'll just say God bless you, the family, and thank you very, very much. There you go. Now I'll open it up. I know there might be a couple in the audience that would like to say a word or two. Mary Gonzalez, we'll start with you. Mary and John have come all the way from Arizona to participate in this event that we only scheduled a couple of days ago. So, Mary, thank you for being here. Excuse me, if you just give us your name and address before you start.
My name's Mary Gonzalez. I live in Goodyear, Arizona, and also in Pueblo West during the summer. I'd like to thank Mr. Mayor and the City Council for bestowing this honor on Mr. Schilling. It's a wonderful thing to do for someone who has done so much for our community. But I would like to start out with thanking Peggy, because Peggy was Greg's stalwart. She kept him going and kept him grounded so that he was able to keep going as he felt was necessary. And I would also like to thank Greg Schilling for giving me the opportunity to do good for the community. Thank you.
Anybody else? Just on a personal note, oh, good, come forward. Thanks, Angie.
Hello, I'm Angie Brown, and I met Greg Schilling at Coffee and Donuts at Our Lady of the Woods back in 2001. It was actually in the fall, and then that spring we had the Hayman fire breakout. And Greg had a way of finding out what your talents were or your experience and how to put you to work. So my phone rang really soon after that, after meeting Greg, and he asked me to help do marketing for the Hayman Fire Task Force at the time. We were having trouble getting people to come and use the money, really. A lot of people weren't really willing to access the funds that Greg had received in donations. So anyway, Peggy, I am just so saddened to lose Greg, but listening to all the great things that he started here in our community is just amazing. And his name isn't even affiliated with most of those agencies and things that he started for our community. Thank you.
So one other thing that I'm aware of, and there may be others, but I know on July 5th, and I'm not sure of the time, but it's at 2 o'clock, okay, so everybody knows. At 2 o'clock at the Help the Needy building on Center Street, we, the Help the Needy folks, have decided to name the building the Schilling Building. Am I correct? And that event will take place, like I said, 2 o'clock a week from today. And with what everybody knows now about everything that Greg did for our community, I would ask to please encourage others. Let's have a great showing. To me, it's what Woodland Park's all about, and it'll be a great event to honor somebody that went above and beyond for his community. So thanks again. Jan, if you'd like to come forward, please do, instead of talking from there. Thank you. Just so everybody at home can hear you.
I just wanted to say this to you because of what's happening here. The other day I was walking past the building and saw the sign that said Schilling Building, and I just thought, oh my God, that is amazing. I took a picture of it and put it on Facebook, and then Suzanne told me that this was going to happen tonight. So I really apologize if I took the air out of anybody's sails. I didn't mean to. I just thought it was amazing.
No, thank you very much. And it is. And thanks to Peggy and everyone at Help the Needy. Just an aside, so people can laugh a little bit, because it's happy and sad, sure. Greg's instruction to me for the last 6 years, and in 3 months in particular, August of 14 and April of 16 and April of 18 and any time around there, his advice to me, and pretty smart guy, Neil, I would advise you not to run for mayor. It's not the smartest thing that you can do. Might hurt your business and this and that. And he kind of reminded me of that through the years, but also with a great deal of, of respect for not just me, but for the whole council and what we do for the community. And so I always appreciated his honesty and his forthrightness. So we will look forward to seeing those that want to come on July 5th. And I'm not sure if I'm at liberty to say, but the service will be at Sacred Heart Church Friday the 6th at 10 o'clock. Is that correct? At 10 o'clock. Okay, thank you very much, Suzanne. She's going to give the proclamation. Okay, we will move on. When Suzanne, and I know I'm going to read the proclamation regarding fire safety. Do you need to introduce anything else?
Mayor, I just wanted to introduce to the audience, the council's aware already, we put a press release out yesterday that there will be no fireworks on July 4th and July 5th. However, the cannons from Fort Carson will still be here, so we'll still get some kind of loud boom noise.
That's great. And that shouldn't discourage anybody from attending the two great events that we'll talk about a little bit later. But for the safety of our community and all those that live here, I think the police department, fire department have absolutely made the right decision. And maybe next year, right? Maybe at Christmas time, who knows, we'll have fireworks left over. Okay, this is the proclamation regarding the fire season of 2018. Whereas on May 29th, 2018, the City of Woodland Park implemented a fire ban, prohibiting outdoor fires as a result of our being drier than the year of the Waldo Canyon fire. And whereas the City of Woodland Park is asking its citizens to sign up their cell phones for alert with Nixle and Everbridge, and whereas the City of Woodland Park is asking its citizens to make sure their fuel tanks are always at least one half full, and whereas the City of Woodland Park is asking its citizens to mitigate when they have time before a fire, and whereas the City of Woodland Park is asking its citizens to have a bag packed with medications during fire season, to have several days of water and non-perishable food available, along with non-electric can opener, should an area be evacuated and they are not able to go home. And whereas the City of Woodland Park is asking its citizens to be prepared and have planned for their pets to include food, medications, and shot records. And whereas the City of Woodland Park is asking its citizens, in the event family members get separated, have an out-of-state emergency contact. And whereas the City of Woodland Park is asking its citizens to be vigilant in their fire prevention activities and report any unsafe behaviors. Now therefore, I, Neil Levy, Mayor of the City of Woodland Park, do hereby recognize the importance of fire safety and preparedness in our community. Approve this 28th day of June 2018. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on and ask for Susan Connolly. And Mr. Connolly also. And if you'll just follow the protocol and give us your name and address and go from there.
I'm Susan Connolly. Is this on? Oh, you don't have any feedback. And we live on Pine Ridge Road in Woodland Park.
Jim Connolly, 1120 Pine Ridge Road. We're here to talk about...
See, excuse me. The important thing is being really close to the mic.
Okay.
Not necessarily for us. Remember, a lot of people at home.
Sure.
So as close as you can, as clear as you can.
Okay. We're here to talk about just some codes that we'd like to see enforced in Woodland Park.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to almost on the microphone.
Specifically concerning short-term rentals.
Thank you.
You can also pull it out of the holder if you want to really put it right on an inch from your lips.
Just this slide just explains a little bit about who we are and what our concerns are. We're concerned residents, homeowners, and voters, and we live in the Woodland Park neighborhood. Many of us have come up here to get away from the city, noise, businesses, traffic, those kind of things. And that we feel that's something we need to preserve in the community. This is a problem we see, and also we hear a lot from other people in the community. Excuse me. We see increased traffic flow around short-term rentals. There's problems with individuals who stay in these trespassing on property owners. There's increased noise, increased dust and debris, and in some cases destruction of the natural character of the neighborhoods. And we have some examples. Take a turn.
We thought we'd show you some pictures of one of short-term rental in our neighborhood that has the neighbors pretty much upset. We think these pictures kind of really help show the negative impact to a residential neighborhood when a short-term rental house is violating multiple recorded city regulations, and when they're called upon, the city is not acting on them and letting it go forward. We just kind of marked the top, 9 vehicles and a trailer, plus a car and a garage, all over the front yard. Is parking at a short-term rental, violating the increased traffic flow, but also violating several other bed and breakfast regulations in a residential neighborhood, and then plus the running a residential business in a residential home violates a lot of codes also. And we're just requesting that the city feel empowered. I mean, they're in the place, the rules and regulations are recorded on the record. We need them enforced when need be. If we do this for all our residential neighborhoods, they're going to stay looking great. The people coming and vacationing up here are going to love coming to them. The people living in the neighborhood will still think that their neighborhood is peaceful and beautiful, has the serenity of a mountain hillside residence. This one was on trespass. Let me do this one too.
Well, it just in the picture, if you want. In the picture, this kind of shows one of the homeowners what they had to do to protect their property from some of the short-term tenants that were staying there. Actually, it's an ongoing thing because people are turned over, quite frequently. We actually called the zoning department about this, and there was no action taken to try to resolve the issue.
They were actually driving over the property owner's yard, parking in their yard, backing up their driveway, missing the driveway, backing up the yard, and turning around. In the bottom picture, you see a sawhorse blocking the driveway, just trying to keep them from using the driveway nonstop. And one day, this homeowner had counted 3 vehicles turn around in it 6 times. This was ongoing every day. In a residential neighborhood, it's fine. The neighbors use your driveway if they need to. They don't make a career out of it, driving in and out, in and out, in and out. The rocks were from a property line that this residence, previous owners had put in because they were putting in a dog fence. And we just, the neighbors there had brought it out forward, trying to keep them off. The grass was trying to be grown there.
Excuse me. I have to ask you again.
Oh,
you got to
I'm
be
so
right
sorry.
there every second.
You can take it out, by the way.
I'll
Use
do it again.
Take it out.
Whatever.
Can you tell this is our first time?
Can.
Apologize.
Remember, we are under
And you
some
were so
time
patient.
constraint, too, so
Okay, so did you get all that?
we
Okay,
did.
thank you.
Okay, this slide shows that there's usually an increase in noise and congestion to traffic flow. This is on Pine Ridge Road where we live, and the street in and out, there's only one way out, one way in. It's frequently blocked by people either moving out or moving in. Go ahead. Destruction of natural character in the neighborhood. We took a before and after picture of a property. The before shows mature landscaping and trees. And go ahead. And in this case, the owner of the short-term rental decided to move all the landscaping, mature trees, to make a bare dirt parking lot for tenants coming in.
There's no more landscaping whatsoever in this residential neighborhood. The codes up on the top right are listed of what they're violating, but you can kind of see in the picture how this would not blend in to a forest, natural, residential neighborhood. Most everybody has all these trees because we're in a forest, actually.
And these are just some representative pictures of the surrounding neighborhood. As you can see, there's a lot of forest and mature trees. And the upper right-hand corner shows the short-term rental house. Yeah. And also the one on the bottom. You can see there are no trees left, just dirt. This is representative of a violation of the home occupation code. They have business signs posted on the outside of the building on a residence. It's also on the B&B rules. No outside signs or alterations in favor of a business.
And this is just a page of the operational requirements to run a business in a residential zone. It's clearly defined if they would read that one and also running a B&B short-term rental. Okay. And then, okay. This just shows the advertisement on Airbnb. They're advertising the entire house. Sally Riley, our zoning director, told us that no more than 5 non-related people could be staying in a house, even if it's in business. They're advertising 3 bedrooms, 8 guests. 3 bedrooms are on the main level. The basement has another bedroom, but it's already, we assume, rented because there's 2 long-term renters in this house also. So that's a potential of 10 people besides any owners that might be living there, although the owner is not living there. Next one.
Well, this is just an example of the bed and breakfast code to show that there is one that exists for B&Bs also, in addition to short-term rental. And there's also one separate for operating a business in a neighborhood that has lots of regulations. We've proposed a solution, that being, no, you're fine. We'd like to see some legal support on this. Woodland Park has the authority to prevent harmful actions and protect the city. We think we've presented some, at least preliminary evidence of some of the things that are happening, and we'd like to see the city support some of the harms non-enforcement poses to the residents. And then residents also would like to see some action from the city to protect their homes and their livelihood and their lives.
My turn. So, in summary, how are we doing on time? Are we okay? Because there had been calls going to the city zoning and the city planning on all the changes happening to this neighborhood house, and the different calls, the different neighbors that had been calling in received no action done, especially to prevent all those gorgeous aspens and landscaping to be completely removed, was also in violation of a residential rule and regulation that it must blend in with the neighborhood. They aren't supposed to change the exterior to show that it's definitely a business. This one's pretty obviously a business, I would assume 100%. And so we had some bullet points. We would like to respectfully request the city to enforce the Woodland Park City rules and regulations already existing on record for operating a bed and breakfast business in a residential neighborhood. Provide means to report home occupation violations to the city for investigation, because so far all the calls from our neighborhood has fallen on deaf ears. Nothing's been done, and I think it really needs to, we just need to step up and be strong and protect our city and the residential neighborhoods to keep all the fabulous people that are on these streets. And we would like the city to provide a statement of accountability regarding the city's enforcement policy of the home rule occupation provision of the code, and to enforce the code as written to prevent further damage to members of the community already addressing this issue. Did you pass out?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So then Suzanne was nice enough to pass out our neighborhood petition. These are just about all the houses on our street. We have a couple that are still vacationing and they're gone, and we have 3 long-term rental homes, that are rented out. And we didn't think they wanted to sign the petition, but we thought, I think it has to be homeowners. We're not real clear on that, so we didn't have them sign. But they would be happy to sign also. So if you would please take a look at that when you have time, and hopefully we can get this settled for all of Woodland Park's neighborhoods, and so we all can continue living in peace and harmony and enjoy those pine trees, whispering in the wind.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience with the microphone.
Sure. Thank you. Turn it over to Aaron Smith.
Thank you, Mayor, and I would just let council know that this topic, short-term rentals, and the issues surrounding them will be an executive session discussion for council on July 19th.
Okay. Normally don't take public comment now, but we give you a couple of minutes. Is Patricia Stinner here?
She left.
She left? Okay. Then we'll wait on public comment. And we'll move on to Tim Koenig and regarding the deer count and population. If you're ready, Tim. Welcome back. A lot of people interested in what you have to say.
Alrighty, thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Tim Craning. I'm your local district wildlife manager for Teller County. Been up here for about 3.5 years now. Love it. And tonight, just talking to you about our deer population and the deer issue. And first, we'll kind of explain what we've been doing the last couple years up here in Woodland Park with our counts. We'll get into some of the issues that we've been seeing, and then going from there, some possible solutions, and then also kind of what Colorado Springs is doing, because they're going through similar issues as well. So we've conducted surveys or counts in the last 2 years in Woodland Park, and with those counts, they're minimum counts of the deer. It's an index to see what that population is doing over time, and from that we're getting to see where the deer are at, where they're distributed on the landscape in town, and then we're also getting to see the fawn production, which is key, and we'll get more to that here in just a few minutes. What this is not is a density study. A density study would tell you what the population absolutely is and the density of the deer in Woodland Park. We can say from our counts, we counted X number of deer in so many square miles, but that's not saying the actual density. That's what we counted. A density study would cost probably over $100,000, and it wouldn't really tell us anything we don't already know. There's a lot of deer in Woodland Park. You can go drive down the street early morning, in the evening, smelling smoke too. Yeah, it is horrible. So anyway, sorry. Squirrel. Anyways, with that density study, it wouldn't tell us anything new. You can drive around town and you can see all of the deer in the early morning or in the evenings when they're out most. So in 2017, this is what our routes looked like. You can actually see we had defined routes that people drove on, and they were biologists and vehicles from CPW. We'd have multiple people in the vehicle. We would see where those deer are at. We would mark them on our map, age them and sex them, and we would take all that data back to our office, and over time we would compile that data and eliminate any duplicates that were in that survey. And we were very conservative with those numbers. If there was any possibility of duplicates, we would take that group out. So you're getting the most conservative numbers. This year in Woodland Park, you can see the map looks a little bit different. Instead of the routes, we did a zone, and there's a reason for this. It's going to be more random. So your observers aren't going to be on an actual route the entire time. They can start in that zone wherever they want and drive around within that zone in a time period. And we always start these coordinated ground counts at the same time, and we all end at the same time. And then with this same thing, mark the location, the time on the map of where we're seeing the deer, age them and sex them. Same thing. It ends up being the most conservative numbers. So you're waiting to see the numbers, so here's a quick comparison of what we've seen the last couple years. And as you see, those numbers are going to be very similar from last year to this year. And these are just a couple of the categories, a couple of the key categories. So number of groups obviously went up. We see that, sure, the total number of deer that we counted went up a little bit. But then I really want you to look at the fawn to doe ratio. 89 and 88 about fawns to 100 does. In the northwest portion of Colorado, our region, which includes Steamboat, Craig, Summit County, Grand Junction, that's our healthiest deer population, or wildland deer population that are doing the best. We take our 3-year average. This data just came out. It's 56 fawns per 100 does. So you can see there's a lot of recruitment in the population here in Woodland Park. In the southeast region, we take our 3-year average, and that's going to include Trinidad, Lamar, all the way out to Burlington. Coming west, we get up here in Teller County and Colorado Springs, Leadville area, that's the southeast region. It's 53 fawns per 100 does. If you look at one management unit, our best management unit as far as production of fawns with the 3-year average, it comes close at 79, and that's out in Yuma. 79 fawns per 100 does. So that's just a comparison of what we see statewide. So we are way up there. It is not uncommon to see twins. In fact, it is extremely common to see twin fawns running around, especially this time of year. They're dropping. And what is even more shocking is seeing triplets. You do not see triplets very often in the wild, but here in town, I've seen several. I haven't seen any this year, but last year I saw several. So, issues that result from having too many deer in town. We get more vehicle collisions. We'll touch more on that in just a second. More predators in town. It's more mountain lions coming into town because they're following the deer. That's their prey. Disease spread rampantly through populations that are dense. And then deer become habituated to people. This one, we did actually have a lady that was attacked and gored by a deer out in Black Forest, so not too far from home. And she was actually knocked down, gored by a deer, and beat up multiple times. The deer left and then came back. So yes, while these animals look cute and cuddly, and it is awesome to see them, they are still wild animals and they can be dangerous. She went to the emergency room and she is doing all right, but she did get beat up pretty bad. The next thing, residents here in Woodland Park, I get complaints on what can I do with my vegetation? I'm spending thousands of dollars on trees and plants. The deer just seem to eat them, and it literally only takes one night for deer to come in, and they'll eat the trees. Or if it's a buck, they may rub their antlers on those trees and tear them to shreds, and it just takes one night. And that's residents spending a lot of money to try and improve their property. And then deer droppings in yards. And this is not a trivial matter. But I've seen lots of deer droppings in folks' yard, and then we go door to door, or we went door to door this last fall through a lot of houses during a slow season, a hunting season that was slower. And I actually talked to one gentleman that was picking up a grocery-sized bag of deer droppings from his yard once a week because he had a lot of deer that were coming into his yard. They felt safe coming into his yard, and he doesn't want his kids playing in that or his pets playing in that. And those deer droppings, they don't go away very quickly. They last for years. So it can really pile up when you have a lot of deer constantly coming into your yard. So going back to the vehicle collisions, we work a lot with Woodland Park Police Department, and I really appreciate their efforts on keeping some of these numbers for us. They've done a fantastic job. So these are not calls that we've taken. These are just Woodland Park Police Department's calls. So 95 on deer calls. That's time and money from taxpayers that they could be doing something else other than going and taking care of these deer. And that's from last June to this June. So your most current up-to-date information. And most of those were vehicle collisions. Looking down, this was last year we talked with Allstate up here, is they're looking at about 80 claims a year in Teller County. That's just one agency, one company, and their average claim is about $4,800. So figure that all up, it gets pretty expensive with just the vehicle collisions. Excuse me. Not only is it expensive, but it can also be deadly. This is not taken from Woodland Park, but just a demonstration that is a deer, and it can become fatal or injure somebody. Luckily, we have not had any fatalities that I'm aware of. We've had one that was close up here a couple years ago. But anyways, moving along, like I mentioned, predators coming into town. We've had a significant call of increase in mountain lion calls here in Woodland Park over the last couple years. I started in 2015 here, so I've been recording those calls. And these are not calls of just sightings. These are calls where I actually have to physically go out, deal with the mountain lion, either haze it, relocate it, euthanize it, or monitoring it to see what it's doing. It's not just a sighting call of, oh, hey, here's a mountain lion passing through town. I understand that mountain lions are going to pass through town. We are on a bit of a corridor here, and mountain lions will go up to Rampart and then go west of town. But when you have deer that are constantly hanging out in the town and are not leaving, that's very inviting for those mountain lions to stay in town. And anytime any animal becomes habituated to people, that's when animals can become dangerous. Disease issues, as I mentioned. We have chronic wasting disease here in Colorado. They don't show on a map, but we Woodland Park sit-in units 511 and 59. Those are our management units. Both of those units are positive for chronic wasting disease, and that's important as we go through this. So the disease is always fatal in deer. It's a prion disease that affects their nervous system, and they can go 2 years without showing symptoms, and I'll show you some of those symptoms before they show those symptoms. So you may not know that deer is positive for chronic wasting disease. And then to test the deer actually has to be deceased. We pull lymph nodes and we send them off to the lab. We do not have a way to test a deer while it's still alive to see if it is positive for chronic wasting disease. So a couple pictures. This is a white-tailed deer. It is not a mule deer, which we have up here, but it affects them the exact same way. As you can see, it's extremely skinny. You can see those ribs. You can also see the hip bones. You should not be able to see the hip bones on a deer like that. It's extremely skinny. And if you look closely, you'll see drool coming down. And these are the later stages of chronic wasting disease. Move on to the next picture. You can see the drool a little bit better there. And the deer will actually look dazed and confused. We do not have any relation that this passes from deer to human, if you say eat it, at this point in time. But it's something to be aware of. We've got everyone wants to move to Colorado or move up to Woodland Park to be up here in the mountains. We love to see our wildlife, and heck, I do too. It's awesome. Yes?
Can wasting disease pass to other animals?
No, I do not believe, well, to a certain degree. It can pass to any of our cervids. So basically, moose and elk, it can be prevalent in them. That's generally the category that we see them in. It's moose, elk, and deer. The closest, yeah, never mind. Excuse me. So anyways, what I was saying with that is we all love to see our deer here in town, and if this disease, say, went rampant through a population that's as dense here in Woodland Park, we would have likely a massive die-off. And I certainly wouldn't want us to lose all of our deer. I think it's great that we have deer in town. There's just a lot of them. People feeding deer. This is a very complex issue, and there's lots of things going on at once. And one of the issues that is spurring this on are a lot of folks that are feeding deer in Woodland Park. It is illegal to do so, illegal to feed big game in Colorado. Keep in mind, it is just myself in all of Teller County. 6 days a month, I'm on call for Colorado Springs, and I'm generally tied up down in the springs when I am on call. So I get pulled in a lot of directions. We have 70 feeders that I know of that have either been cited or warned here in Woodland Park. And we've done a lot of education, trying to get the message out there through the media that whether it's through articles or interviews that, hey, it's not good to feed the deer. It's not good to feed them. Make the analogy, it's like if you give your kid candy all the time and that's all you give them, Twinkies, whatever, it's not good for them. You're going to see that in their body condition, and you'll actually see that in our deer here in Woodland Park. Their body condition is not great. Their coats look ratty. It's not that sleek, shiny coat that you should see. But the deer don't know any better. They love it, just like a kid would love candy. So they're going to hang out and hang around people, become habituated to people, and that's what worries me, is I don't want someone to get attacked like we had the lady attacked out in Black Forest. The does, just because they don't have antlers, doesn't mean they have those sharp hooves. I've been kicked by them, trying to get them out of fences and stuff. There's a lot of power behind those hooves. And one thing people think it is the coolest thing to have a deer that close. No, to me, this is a dangerous situation for everybody involved. It doesn't take much. That's a wild animal. All he has to do is turn his head the wrong way and is going to injure that toddler. What I would love to see is a city ordinance on feeding. I think that would really help out to a degree. And then just moving along, what does this mean for us here at Woodland Park? I think first we got to recognize that there is an issue. There's too many deer here in Woodland Park. Then next, Colorado Parks and Wildlife wants to collaborate with Woodland Park on finding solutions to the issue at hand. So, and then throughout the process, develop measurable ways that we can see if we implement something, to see if it's effective, because we don't want to waste anyone's time. We want something to be effective. And I think ultimately it would be great to have a management plan for the deer here in Woodland Park. Now, a couple of things are thrown around. There's deer management proposals, and some of them are ineffective or just unrealistic for where we live. Fertility control, it's expensive. As you can see, $400 to $600 per deer. You have to get 70% of the does in that population with the birth control. At that, the population needs to be a closed population. So you cannot have any immigration or emigration in or out of the population. Our population is not closed. Deer come in and they move out. So for that reason, it's ineffective, and it just costs a lot of time, effort, and work. So it is really not an option. Next is sterilization. As you can see, it's even more costly to go with sterilization, and it's for the same sort of reasons. Trap and relocate. This is one that is unrealistic for where we are at. I'm often asked, well, why can't you just trap these deer and move them to someplace where we don't have deer? Well, we talked about chronic wasting disease. We are in a unit that's positive for chronic wasting disease. So we cannot do this because, and the agency will not allow us to do this, because we would likely be spreading chronic wasting disease in our positive units here to other places in the state. And again, it would be great if we could test a deer to see if they have it, but they have to be deceased for us to be able to test them to see. And as you can see, ranges from $400 to $3,000 to do that. Can become extremely expensive, and this one is very labor intensive. And as a side note, when you do trap deer, they become very stressed out under those nets, and most of them will die either from the stress that's going on, or they could incur a broken neck or something underneath that neck. Trap and euthanize. Again, this one is also unrealistic, and that is, we've done surveys throughout the state. We have hunts that are going on in cities throughout Colorado, and we've done surveys out to see what the public opinion is of all these different proposals. And this one is not taken well by the public. It is seen as not ethical, not humane to trap. You're basically baiting deer into one spot, you're dropping a net on them, you'll take them off-site and euthanize them, because we don't want this to be in the public's eye. And so it is also expensive and time-consuming as well. So deer options that are realistic. You can have sharpshooters do a culling, and that can be expensive as well. We'll talk more about this with what Colorado Springs is looking at. But some options, you can use local resources like police department or the local SWAT team. They are trained individuals that could do this at a much lower cost. Regulated hunting, and again, that word in front of hunting is key. Regulated hunting. Safety is paramount. We want to do this out of the public's eye to respect everybody. We're not trying to do this behind closed doors or anything, but we want to respect. Some people do not want to see that, and I totally respect that and understand that. But it's the most cost-effective for a city to do. And with that, it can look like a whole lot of different things, because the city can tailor the hunt to what they would like it to be. What we've seen, say in Elizabeth, is the city manager works with a volunteer coordinator. That volunteer coordinator works with a counterpart of myself, and there's very low cost and low time spent by the city manager, and just taxpayer dollars going into this.
Tim, I'll just interrupt for a second. In the interest of time, I can tell you that everyone here is very interested. What I would like to do is, get a hold of Suzanne. Let's set up a meeting. We'll get participants, maybe a couple from council, maybe a couple from Main Street, maybe a couple from wherever, and we'll put a committee together. You and I can talk as to how many. I don't want to talk about solutions now, because once you start talking, and then people are afraid we're going to be out shooting deer in the middle of the day, and so
sure.
want to kind of keep things under wraps until we have some discussions. Certainly Miles will be with us.
Right.
So if you'll request who you want, between Suzanne and I, we'll put together a committee.
Okay.
And we'll move forward. But unfortunately, we're pretty short of time
Absolutely,
tonight.
and that's exactly what I was getting to. This is my last slide. And what Colorado Springs is, they created a task force and are going through meetings as well, just like you're saying, and coming up with solutions. The only one thing I want to say real quick is they did send out a request for information statewide to see what the culling costs would be. They were responded back, this is nationwide, 3 companies answered back, and those costs were what I showed you, $600 to $800 per deer. They're looking at 200 deer over a 5-year period. It's over $100,000. Extremely expensive, but they're continuing to work on a solution. They don't have something set in stone at this point in time by any means, but they're working towards a management proposal, a management plan. So absolutely, I would love to get with you, and if anyone ever wants to do a ride-along with me, I would be happy to have you along, and I can talk with you further about the issue. I'll drop off some business cards, and don't hesitate. If you have questions, email is on there, and the email's on there, and also my phone number, so please call me, and we can definitely set something up like that.
Just for our information, does DOW have any resources to help if in case we decide to go down any direction?
I'm it.
I
will be helping along the way.
Cash resources?
No, we do not have any cash resources.
I understand.
Yeah. So with that, I'll end with, we are looking at having a public meeting on August 14th. And what's the location on that again, Debbie?
Youth Pass Cultural Center from 6 to 8 on August 14th?
August 14th, yes, sir.
Great.
Thank you all for your attention, and I really appreciate your time. I know it is very valuable.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tim. Thank you very much. While they have, yes, sir. While that bear is up there, I got to tell you, Tim has really helped me. Anyone else that has trouble with bears, if they're helping securing their trash can, we've got the big dumpster behind the restaurant, which you can imagine attracts bear, with the rebar across the top to theoretically, make it impossible for bear to get in. Well, the bear would just rip that piece of rebar and figure out a way to get in. The point is, he came up with the idea that really works, and that if anyone has this issue, put a piece of PCV over the rebar, and the bear really has a hard time putting his hands or his paws on that PCV. And once we've done that, literally, we haven't had a call in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I believe it's been about 2 years. And we have a great bearware volunteers up here. They're outstanding. They came up with that idea. I don't know what I would do without them because, as you said, I'm the only officer up here. And they come up with these ideas. They will spend time. They'll go to your house. If you've got an issue, please call us early on so that we can take care of the issue at a lower level instead of having to relocate or euthanize a bear. I'd much rather haze a bear or work with you to resolve the issue than move a bear or kill a bear. So thank you.
Yeah. The point is, we really appreciate your service, Tim. Great job.
Thank you much, and thank you for having me.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to let Norma know at 4 o'clock this morning, a bear went under the deck at the Courier office.
Mayor, can we take a 5-minute break?
Absolutely. We'll reconvene at 9 o'clock. And we're still on item number 3.
The what? Well, you know what I figured? I felt bad for the elderly.
We'll wait for you, sir, if you... Oh, that's killing you? You can stand for a while. We've got a lot to go, and I know that me and Hinkle and Company have decided that their next agenda. So that said, we are on agenda item 3B, and Mike, welcome Mike 3.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Whoa. About that. Tonight, we're here to present the comprehensive annual financial report along with the auditor's report. Back second meeting in May, I presented the preliminary audit results.
Sorry, Mike, let's hold it until we get this. Right, let's just test it.
Testing.
Right here.
Testing.
Now we're good, yeah. I don't think it is.
All right, is that good?
You see it off? Thank you. It was.
So again, good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we're presenting the comprehensive annual financial report along with the auditor's report that is with the comprehensive annual financial report. Back in second meeting in May, I had presented the preliminary audit or preliminary financials. The numbers really have not changed since that report, so I won't go into too much detail regarding them other than to point out that and remind you that the fund balance for 2017 ended up for the general fund about $568,000, almost $569,000, which is about 6% of the total operating expenditures. Lower than the 10% policy amount, but that's a number that we have been discussing quite a bit. It is higher than what was originally projected in the 2017 budget, so we did finish out better than what was budgeted in 2017. With that, everything else, fund balances remain positive and healthy. Revenue or expenditures did not exceed their budgets within each fund. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Wendy Swanhorst of Hinkle and Company. Ken LaCrone is also here, who worked with us during the audit. So, Wendy?
Thank you. I can make this quick. I know you have a lot to do. So, just so you know, you get every year, you get this CAFR that Mike talked about, and this is all the numbers from your accounting records. And then you guys, as the governing board, hire us to tell you that we think the numbers in here are all fairly stated. And so our audit opinion is in here, tells you that we think that they are. And then the other thing we always give you is this letter, our management letter that tells you what we did and what we found. And to summarize what we do, which I already kind of told you, our goal is really just to tell you these numbers are fairly stated. But in addition to that, if we see weaknesses in your internal controls, that's what we're required to tell you about in this letter. And there are levels of those issues, and really it's those significant deficiencies that we key on, and that would simply mean that your numbers could be materially misstated or fraud could occur, and those are the things we would report in the letter. We do have some recommendations in here, but I'm happy to say that we don't believe any of those rise to that significant level. Your controls for your size are in pretty good shape, and the main thing is when we come to do the audit, we don't do significant adjustments to your numbers. So as Mike said, you know, the numbers you've been looking at all along are the numbers you'll still see in this audit report, and I think that's what you hire us to do. So,
Last year you had some concerns. Do you feel like we've done better this year? You think
absolutely, much better. I'll give Mike credit for that. He's done a very good job.
That's good to hear. Council, we have questions for Kelly? I'm sure you've got something. And Val.
I'd just like to say hi to Wendy and Ken. We worked together for many years, and assure the council that you've got a great set of auditors working for you. And I think the financial statements are looking better. And I think that we're headed in the right direction, and I'm happy that I'm here to help with that process. So my compliments to Mike. He's excellent. The city's very lucky to have him on staff. Known him for years, and he has a great reputation and knows his stuff. I guess the only thing that I would chime in on, council, as we are getting closer to the budget season, and you've heard it, some of you heard it from me before. I worked here for 17 years as the city's finance director, and the entire time was the only accountant on staff. It's still that way, and Mike being the only accountant on staff, he's headed in a better direction, but I just encourage the council that we strongly consider giving him some support in that position so that Mike can be more timely in financial statement presentation, more timely with financial information to the council and to the community, and focus there. Years ago when we started recovery, the finance department lost 2 positions, and those positions have never been replaced. And I would encourage the council to see that that's a critical area and that we focus on doing something about it. Thank you.
Didn't you say you were on your own for 17 years?
I was on my own for 17 years. And the council received the financial statements by April 30th every year, according to the charter. It was a tough thing to do. And what suffered was current year books. While you're working to prepare and close everything and reconcile everything for audit and for financial statement presentation, it's more than full-time, and continue to address council needs and staff needs and all of the other day-to-day activities that the finance department's responsible for. Something gives, and typically it's keeping current year books going while you're preparing for audit. So I just can't express to you enough how critical it is to this organization to get another accountant on staff.
Great.
To support the finance director.
I'm sure you'll lead that during our budget discussions.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you.
Anybody else? Carol.
I think the charter is now in compliance, or not in compliance, but we've now changed that date from April to July.
No, not at all.
Councilmember Harvey, you're referring to the annual report, which is 21 days after the audit is completed.
And the annual report is scheduled for the next council meeting.
Okay.
But what you're saying, Kelly, is the charter says we need to have this report by the end of April.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Mike, we're going to help you, if we can, to see if we can get that done. Anybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Val.
Just a quick question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of citizenry and myself are concerned about our debt position. Do you have any comments on that from your audit? Outside of it's okay.
Well, probably the best thing I can tell you is that it's reported correctly in these financial statements, and that's really what we're here to tell you. A lot of those management decisions are probably a question for Mike rather than me. But, you know, as he mentioned, when you have a fund balance policy of 10% and you haven't met that, you know, that always brings up some issues.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here.
Yep.
You bet. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Wendy. It's good to see you both.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm not inclined to take public comment now. You want to wait till public comment, Bob?
Well, it's related to this subject, so I can wait for
You can comment now if you'll make it short.
Oh, I will.
Good.
I'm tired of waiting.
Good. We'll give you a couple of minutes to make a comment.
Bob Carlson, 1155 Windfire Lane, Woodland Park, Colorado. Just a couple comments. I just want to make some corrections in the report under double I, right in the middle of the page, paragraph starting with pursuant to the city's home rule charter. There's a sentence there that says city administration is authorized to transfer budgeted amounts between departments within a given fund. Revisions that alter total expenditures of a fund must be approved by city council. The city manager, okay, and the part is that actually section 9.12 of the charter says that any time during the fiscal year, the city manager may transfer part or all of any unencumbered appropriation balances among programs within a department, office, or agency. And upon request by the manager, the council may, by ordinance, transfer part or all of an unencumbered appropriation balance from one department to another one. In other words, the city manager has the right to move money around within a department, not but between departments. I don't want to debate this, but if any council disagrees with me, we'll change the charter. Second one.
Page, reference?
Aye.
Aye.
Middle
Manager,
paragraph, pursuant.
Or in the transmittal letter.
What was that?
Go ahead, I just was clarifying for Val.
Okay. The second one was also regarding the next page over, I3, and it talks about the 10% reserve, okay? And Mike talks about the reserve of unrestricted, okay? When we made the resolution back in 2014, resolution number 786, it states, there is hereby adopted a fund balance policy to wit that the city's general fund maintain a balance of not less than 10% of the total operating expenditures for that fund in the then current year and years following. In other words, the balance, the fund balance, we're not talking about reserve or whatever, but that would include, and this is how it was treated the first couple years, is that Tabor is included in that number, because Tabor is emergency reserve, along with whatever we haven't spent at the end of the year. That is all a reserve. One's emergency, one's still there. So anyway, if necessary, council can clarify this and revise this resolution if they wish. But if it's following the specific language here, our actual reserves is closer to 14% this year at the end of 2017 by adding that 311,000 from Tabor in there. Now it's up to the city council to decide how much they want to have as reserves. Okay, all I'm pointing out is that I was involved very deeply in this arrangement, and at the time we freed up $700,000 to be used for other stuff other than bringing up the, having reserve up at 18, 19%, I believe it was at the time. So again, I was just pointing out possible difference of opinion that I think does need to be resolved by council by the end of this year, hopefully. I had other comments, but that's basically the two issues that I wanted at least to bring to your attention that need some consideration.
Great, thanks, Bob.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on. We have no additions, deletions, or corrections. Move on to the consent calendar. Suzanne, you want to go ahead?
Thank you, Mayor Levy. We have several items this evening on the consent calendar. I will list each one of them if you have any questions regarding any of them. So we have the approval of the minutes of June 7, 2018 council meeting. We have the approval of the May 2018 statement of expenditures. We have the approval of a contract with Ameritrex Services to provide painting services for the Gold Hill and Country Ridge water tanks in the amount of $54,500. And we have the approval of a contract with Hewitt and Construction Company to provide construction services for the Park Street improvements in the amount of $668,518.50.
Thank you, Suzanne. Council, Val?
Thank you, sir. I went and met with Kip today, and we talked over a bunch of these things, and I got some good resolution on questions I had. One of the situations I want to talk about, just before Ben Sheets left, and Kip and I briefly talked about this, they discussed bringing some of the possible work in-house. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but I think these two contracts we're looking at here really don't fit that. criteria. I know striping is one of the things we're looking at, and there may be other small construction things you can do.
So the things we've done in-house, we're looking at the parking lot, and we also need to purchase a scraper, and we're paying for that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Not call for a motion to approve the consent calendar, please.
I did have, I'm not going to make one quick comment on the letter. That would be a pleasure.
Good. We like less than 30 seconds. And I'm looking at a clock.
You're aware that during the budget process, I had some problems with the street projects, especially Park Street South. Work there, you're asking for $660-something thousand to do like a really short street. That's like $1,000 per foot. I think this is a terrible waste of taxpayers' money, and I would implore council to just deny that contract, or at least put in the contract that they can have value engineering analysis, and if they can do it another way, still meeting the design intent, much cheaper, that they would be able to come in and propose a cheaper solution than the one that we designed. Because I know council members that were talking about this during the budget hearing, and this is going to hit the papers. Okay, so thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
I've met with the residents that live on that street that receive the drainage problems that come from that and are at the end of that and across the street from that. And I believe that anyone that lived where they live would be happy to see this project going forward. And I'm sure that our engineers and I have confidence that with the work that needs to be done there and the realigning of driveways and getting rid of the car catcher on that street, that this is a project that is necessary to protect the homeowners at the end of that drainage from the damage they've been receiving. So I'll be approving that. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I'd like to go back to Val's comment. So you did take some time to talk to Kip, and are you okay with this number? I mean, is it a big number to fill a ditch? But I guess I don't know the scope of the project.
Yeah, I always have a problem with scope, but I don't build roads for a living. I'm an engineer, but I build rockets and software. There were competing bids. To Citizen Carlson's point, it seems very expensive. I would defer to people who actually build roads, have experience in that. That would include Public Works, and actually we have a councilman that's done that in the past. But I did see the comparative bids, and they were all, this was actually not the high bid, believe it or not.
Wow.
So,
Kip, excuse me, Val, how many bids did we get?
We have a pre-bid meeting, mandatory pre-bid meeting for those contractors that show up at that pre-bid meeting. No one will allow it to be bid on.
Right.
3 showed up. Of those 3 submitted bids, the number 1 bid, or the highest bid, I took the 2 was $793,000, and the second one was $660,000.
So, members of the press, when this hits the newspapers, using Mr. Carlson's words, let's be sure that it's clear. We had 3 people that offered bids. There were 2 bids that came in, and we took the lowest of the 2 bids. Who else? I'm sorry, Paul? You done? Nope. Thank you. You can do that. Paul?
The mechanical shop up at the beginning. Did you talk to him?
Ben has
I
spoken
think
with
Ben,
him.
you talked to him, or got the talking problem, that it was a great opportunity for the city to work with a business who does have a problem, created by that drainage system, and he has done some work on the building. I would like that to be taken into consideration. Have you reviewed the contract?
I have, Councilman. In fact, the contract is the city's standard bid, build, construction contract, so it contains the standard provisions that protect the city with regard to the best practices.
Well,
just is a big contractor. I've worked with them before. This is a complete tear out, concrete drainage, realignment, plumbing underneath the concrete, and it's a complete redo of the blacktop. Pretty good price. Okay, there's a little bit more here that, meets the eye in this type of contract. I'm just saying this for the benefit of the city, my professional experience, my experience with this particular contractor. I don't believe we'll have any problems with the contractor. I think we'll do well. So, I don't know about the price.
There you go. You're on. Oh, I'm sorry, Noel?
If it's a complete tear out and they're redoing it completely, they've got to move driveways, I could see at a reasonable price. I would like, is this, it's kind of on the fence whether it's a need or a want. It sounds like a need, but we have drainage ditches like that all over town. What makes this one so special? I'm okay with this number. It sounds like it's reasonable because it came down from almost $1 million to 668. So we are saving 320,000. I would like to change it though. I think we should be apprised of any changes over 5% and not 10%. I don't know if the council's for that. At the very bottom it says that any work orders amount not exceeding 10% of the contract price. I'd like to reduce that. I'd like to have a little bit more control of the budget there. And do we have a performance on the contract?
I think that's a good discussion for a work session.
How many work sessions are we going to have?
A lot. If we need them, we're going to have them. But we're not going to make that decision today. Val?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. There is a small increment associated with Mr. Lucina's effort that's not scoped in here, but it's $10,000 or so. So that will be an add-on, probably.
I'd just like to add, although I would appreciate that, when you are faced with a change order on a project,
right.
2 weeks, make that decision for sessions.
But 10%.
I'm not saying there's a certain threshold.
Well, I mean, we could change it to a number then. It's like 30,000 instead of 10%, because if I have a $10 million project and I say 10%, that's huge compared to. So the smaller the project, 10% is more reasonable. But when it's 668,000, it's up to council obviously. But I just think that's a concern, and we've fallen in that trap in the past with projects, and I just think maybe we have a little bit more say in the project.
Carol?
$600,000 project, it's not a
It is what it is. I understand that, but I'm not.
I don't want to disregard what Noel said. My question was, is 10% the best practice when you reviewed the contract that is industry standard?
This is typical with municipal entities, special districts, who are contracting and who get authority from a board that meets once or maybe twice a month. So a 10% actually, or a 15% authorization to the utilities director or city engineer to approve contract changes is common. Thank you.
Thank you. One more. Go ahead, Val.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for the public's edification, I already know the answer to this because I asked, but one of the situations we've had in the past that the public has been inquisitive of is performance clauses and liquidated damages potential, if either KIP or our city attorney could address that in the case of these two contracts.
Thank you for that. Yes, the Park Street contract does contain a liquidated damages provision because we are using the city standard contract. The standard bid build construction contract contains a liquidated damages provision. The the assignment of Ben Sheets before he left was to calculate what that liquidated damages amount should be, and it is $250. It's important to have a calculation for liquidated damage so that it's reasonable and it reflects the true costs that the city would incur if the contractor is late. And if it doesn't reflect those true costs, then it is an impermissible penalty and it renders the entire contract unenforceable. So that has been done with regard to the Park Street contract. With regard to the tank painting contract, it does not contain a liquidated damages provision. That is a function of the fact that there is no cost to the city if the tank painter is late. The city suffers in no way, and on account of that, to include a liquidated damage would be one that could not be supported. So you would run into the concern that your liquidated damage did constitute a penalty. With regard to the tank painting contract, in the scope of services, there are performance standards, and those are enforced through the warranty provisions. That contract has a 1-year warranty on it, so that in the event of any defects, the city can go back to that contractor and get those defects cured. With regard to the Park Street contract, those specifications, performance standards, if you will, are contained in the contract documents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul?
Do we protect subcontractors if for payment?
We do. We do. Thank you.
Neil, Mayor, we've gone through, some of us have been here long enough to see where the gotchas are in the contract, and that's why I just feel like we're asking these questions. They might be repetitive for some council members or new to other council members, but we went through this with subcontractors, for example, with Memorial Park. That made the city look bad, even though we had nothing to do with it. We had performance issues, I believe, with the Aquatic Center. So I'm just asking these questions. I'm sure they're addressed already, but it's just...
That's good. I appreciate the fact that we funded the project for $985,000, and that the city engineer said it would cost us $850,000, and we came up with a $660,000 or $75,000 budget. So my hat's off to staff and Kip and getting this done, and it looks to me, without knowing as much as you engineers do, that we're about 30% less than what we funded at the beginning of this project. So I like the direction that we're going in. So thanks very much, Kip. I appreciate it. That said, I need a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Motion to approve, as stated.
Second.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you. Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
LeVar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Soler?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. We have no unfinished business. We move on to ordinances on initial posting, and you're back on the dais.
Testing. Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Tonight you have before you the first supplemental appropriation for 2018. It includes 2 items. One of them is in the 410 fund, the Streets Improvement Capital Improvement Fund. It's to increase the budget by $240,000, and that's due to a grant that the city received from CDOT for safe routes to schools to improve sidewalks to Gateway Elementary. Total project costs are estimated about $300,000. We've already budgeted $60,000, which would be the city's match, and the $240,000 being requested to increase the budget by is the grant amount, grant funds. So there's no additional city funds being requested. It's all grant money. Secondly, is an increase to the 2018 budget for the wastewater utility fund, 520 fund. That's to continue the construction of the wastewater treatment plant expansion. The funds were all budgeted in 2017. The project was carried over, the actual project is carried over into 2018, and therefore we need to carry over the remaining funds that were not spent in 2017 into 2018. and that is $2,107,000. And this is on first reading, and so we're asking for approval on first reading and also setting the public hearing for July 19th. Then how would we pay the contractor the rest of the money?
I'll move to approve ordinance 1431 and set a public hearing for July 19th.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Noel. Suzanne?
Harvey?
Yes.
LeVar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Swinier? Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. We'll move on. No public hearings tonight. We'll move on to new business and approving Resolution 831 and Kip Wiley.
Thank you. Resolution 831 is a tap transfer for Kingsbury. Our municipal code allows for water and sewer tap transfers, but discourages from routine transfers. And the method for doing that is any first tap transfer within 5 years is $500 per tap, so $500 for water, $500 for sewer, total of $1,000. Any tap transfer after that is 25% of the current value of the tap. Kingsbury has not transferred a tap within the last 5 years. This tap, we recommend approval of 831 authorizing that tap transfer from the water and the sewer tap from 111 North Maple to 1201 Woodland Valley Ranch Drive.
Thank you, Kip. I see that Mr. and Mrs. Sperry are here in case we have any questions for them, but thanks for the explanation, Kip. Council, we have any questions? Mr. Sperry, good luck. Any comment on this from the public? There you go. Okay. We'll call for a motion to approve resolution number 831.
Motion to approve resolution 831.
Thank you. Second by Mr. Saunier. Suzanne?
LeVar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Swinier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thanks, Kip. And thank you, Jean and Mrs. Sperry. We'll move on. We have no conversation on city manager tonight, but Ms. Smith, appointment of city prosecutor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have advised the Council that the prior city prosecutor has resigned. He had been doing the work, I think, since about 2005. He has taken a permanent position with the City of Boulder's legal department. So that leaves a city prosecutor office, or city prosecutor's position vacant. And I would recommend that you approve and appoint Suzanne Rogers to fill that position. What the city prosecutor does is what I want to tell you about, and then I want to give you a little bit of background on Suzanne. So what the city prosecutor does is provides all services necessary to successfully prosecuting criminal and traffic cases in the municipal court. This person serves as the municipal court prosecutor for all the municipality's regularly scheduled sessions. In addition, this person is also available at all other reasonable related times as required for associated municipal court matters. This person also must be available by telephone and email for any emergency municipal court matters. Additionally, if the need arises, this person needs to be available to consult with and/or advise law enforcement and court staff as needed on matters related to municipal prosecution. Suzanne Rogers practices 100% in criminal law, including contract prosecution services in various municipalities. She has been licensed in the state of Colorado since April 1992. Rogers has been the municipal prosecutor since August 2004 in Idaho Springs Municipal Court, Silverthorne Municipal Court, and the Dillon Municipal Court. She has tried over 400 criminal trials, bless you, including municipal court jury trials and court trials, as well as county court misdemeanor trials and district court felony trials. I would also point out that she comes highly endorsed by the administrative folks and the municipal judge that she will be working with. I have conferred with Municipal Judge McClintock and Municipal Court Clerk Carla Collins, as well as Bev Hodges, the Police Department Administrative Assistant, Teen Court Coordinator, and Heidi Troxel with the GAINS program and the Marijuana Tax Revenue Grant Program, who interfaces regularly with the city prosecutor when it comes to juveniles who are cited for drug, alcohol, and tobacco-related offenses. All report that Ms. Rogers is experienced, professional, easy to work with, and would endorse her appointment. May I answer any questions? Oh, and let me just say that she would charge $125 for her services, which is the same hourly rate that the prior prosecutor had been charging. She did offer a flat 25 hours per month times $125 flat fee, but I have done research and have found that typically the prior prosecutor was spending 18 to 25 hours per month on court matters, so I think the city is better off with the hourly rate of $125. She will charge for her mileage, the IRS mileage rate, and I think that concludes my report. Again, are there any questions I can answer?
Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you answered both of them. One was, is she going to charge that rate for travel time?
She will.
Okay, and plus the mileage?
Plus the mileage.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Aaron, thanks for your work in this, and I'm sure we've picked a good prosecutor.
I believe we have.
Good. Council, we just need a motion to approve Suzanne Rogers as the city prosecutor.
I'm sorry, could I ask one more question?
Sure.
Where is she coming from?
She comes from Denver.
Okay, thank you.
I should add that we put out a request for proposals from 3 people. In addition to Suzanne, there were 2 people in Colorado Springs who had been former DAs, and they did not respond to our proposal, and they for various reasons.
Thank you.
Sir?
Is this a long-term contract? Is this
When you hire an attorney, retain an attorney, there's never a long-term contract.
contract?
Yes, there will be a retainer agreement, and she will have that state her fees in it. Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Nope. Nope. Motion to approve Suzanne Rogers?
Motion to approve Suzanne Rogers for prosecutor, for Woodland Park City prosecutor.
Thank you, and a second, please. Thank you. Suzanne? Yes?
Sonia?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Case? Yes. McCarthy?
Yes.
LeVar?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. No public comment on items. I think we've gone through everyone. So we'll move on to reports and start with the mayor's report. I just have a couple of announcements quickly. Tomorrow, Farmers Market at Memorial Park. It's the best farmers market in the world. And I will be there at about 8 o'clock with the new superintendent of schools. So if anyone's interested in meeting Steve Wolf tomorrow, we'll probably spend a couple hours at the park, and I think everybody will be pleased with the leadership that the school board has hired, and moving forward, he's got great plans for our kids. The 4th of July celebration, I've got the flyer here, which everybody can get, but there's a lot of events. The event at Memorial Park starts at 9 o'clock, and it goes from 9 to 3, and a bunch of you have been there before. It's probably one of the premier events in our community. There will certainly be food and beer and performances and engine rides, flag raising, basketball tournament. I know there's a pancake breakfast, but I don't see it. Well, here it is. 8 o'clock pancake breakfast at the senior center that day. And then the cemetery crawl is from 1 to 3 that day. So a busy day. The only downside, of course, is we won't have fireworks, but we'll appreciate everybody showing up, and it's just one of the great community events that we have here in Woodland Park. And then followed up on July 5th by the Symphony Above the Clouds. Suzanne, could you give me the starting time for that? I don't know.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to help you with that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm
Why
from
don't I
the
just
Symphony
turn it over
Guild.
to you?
And the gates open at 5. Music with the Carrie Dell Trio will be our opening act at 5:30, and the symphony will begin playing at 7. Everyone's welcome. Bring picnic chairs, blankets, because it gets cold after sundown, and I think it's going to be a great evening. Anything else? I'm happy to answer if anyone has questions.
I was just going to say,
Thanks to everybody for your support.
keep an eye on the weather, because believe it or not, it looks like we have a chance for a little precipitation next week.
No fireworks that evening either, but the cannons will be there from Fort Carson. The symphony will still play the 1812 Overture, and you can just have that picture in your mind of the fireworks.
There you go. Okay, that's all I have. Val?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I only have one thing. It's just kind of a review of our, on June 9th, we had our cleanup, Main Street, Keep Woodland Park Beautiful. 100 other organizations and volunteers were there and did a fabulous job. I was laid up, so I didn't quite make it, but thank you to all the citizens and volunteers who helped do that. With Chambers' help too. Made it a very successful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Kelly.
Yes. Council, I just would like to report to you from the DDA. Just a heads up for the City Council that the DDA board has been in conversation with Vector Bank, who is the lien holder for their debt that they have. And the DDA is looking at possibly coming to the council with the potential of doing a addition to the debt that they have with Vector Bank. The existing debt would remain undisturbed at the interest rate of 3.97, and any increase would be at, interest rates have moved, at 4.6. We've had preliminary conversations with Bond Council and with Vectra, and are going to be putting together more information with regards to that to pay for ongoing expenses, particularly those associated with legal fees associated with the litigation that we've been through, and be prepared for any settlement that might come. Don't know if that's going to be an option or not. Let's see, what else should I tell you? I did ask the city clerk to help me with my memory, and my memory did serve me well. The initial in 2003, November in 2003, the voters of the district did approve a maximum debt of issuance of $30 million. We'll never even come close to that, so there is room in that authorization. Time would not be extended on the existing debt. That would still mature in June of 2028, and our statutory time for the DDA does expire in 2013. So just kind of 2013 is our statutory existence.
2013?
31,
Thank
like
you.
I said. You'd think an accountant in recovery would not transpose numbers, but I have to be careful, always have. But anyway, just a heads up, I wanted to just give you that information to ponder, and there'll be a lot more information forthcoming. So the other thing I'd like to mention is something we're doing for the community. On July 14th, there will be an electronics recycling for the community at Keller Williams here in town, and they will take anything that plugs in. I wouldn't drag a refrigerator down, but ovens, microwave ovens, TVs, anything that is a television or a monitor, even flat screen, we will have a reduced fee per pound that we've negotiated with our recycling firm. So if you have those things, come see us July 14th, 10 to 2 at Keller Williams, and the only thing that you'll be charged for is any TV type item. And we'll have gift bags for you, and it's just an opportunity to help people clean up with their electronics so they don't go into the dumpsters. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Hillary.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Paul.
I want to thank all the volunteers for keeping Woodland Park beautiful and coming together. Main Street did put up $1,000 for the power wash of the streets cleanup. The city had their crews out the day before sweeping. Thank you very much. There are 20 Main Street programs in Colorado. Woodland Park has the highest volunteer rate in hours and a very high score in Colorado for Main Street. I've been to 3 DOLA training meetings in the past months, and they have prepared themselves to move forward, I believe, in a good, orderly fashion, and I saw a lot of representation from our business owners and citizens at these meetings, and I'm proud to be liaison to Main Street and see the progress moving forward. So thank you, everybody, and I believe my information is correct that they'll be painting the underpass just north of Safeway on June 30th from 10 to 2 p.m. The more people, the faster it'll go. So thank you very much.
What's that date again, Paul?
June 30th.
June 30th. Thank you. Noel?
Great. So I had the opportunity of attending my first Park and Rec Advisory Board. It was actually very, very good. What a great group of volunteers we have. We also went ahead and picked our chair and vice chair. So our chair is Carla Schweitzer, so congratulations. And our vice chair is Dana Weber. We also had a very well put together presentation by a young lady, Bianca Bryant, to propose a dog park behind Safeway. And she is going to put that presentation together with all the advice that we gave her on the advisory committee. She's going to come to council and do that presentation. It's very well done, and she presents it very professionally, so I look forward to that. On a side note, just a thought, what Kelly was saying about the DDA is, and I've always thought this the whole time I was there, our DDA is kind of in a unique situation because our DDA owns land, and the DDA also has a debt to the city. And when I started looking at all these other DDAs around the state and around the country, they don't have any debt like that. So when you talk about debt, the DDA has an uphill battle. A loan to the city for $1 million, which we were dealing with. We own land. I think we're paying $2.7 million. So the DDA owes $3.7, and if Kelly was going to read that, it would say 7.3, but I hope not. All right. So I just want to just to let everybody know that the DDA is doing a great job with such a large amount of debt that most DDAs don't have. So just think about that when you're talking about the DDA. So that when you say they're not doing a good job or they're not dealing with their debt, they're strapped with debt that really they shouldn't have, and other DDAs aren't dealing with. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, move on. City Attorney report. Nothing. Suzanne.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. As the interim city manager, I have to do a little bit of bragging for the city. Some of you may have attended the Best of Teller County last night. I'd like to announce some of the awards that were presented to the city of Woodland Park. We received an award for the Teller County Most Improved Player. That was Meadowood Sports Complex. The local Parks and Rec leader with the most heart was our own Cindy Key, was awarded that. Everyone knows what a tourist is. That's someone who drives 2,000 miles to have his picture taken standing beside his car. I just thought that that was so funny from 50 years ago. It's the same things we're talking about, the weather, the tourists, the traffic. So I just wanted to show you all that. I wanted to remind council that we have a work session scheduled for July 12th at 5:30 here. And also wanted to let council know we will be seeing this announced on the website and different sorts of media. Our teen center will be closed beginning July 4th to July 13th. It'll be closed for 10 days. The staff is going to do some professional development and work at the teen center. And then the city would like to wish the council and all of the audience and the public a very happy and safe 4th of July. That's all we have.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anything else, council? Okay. There you go. Thank you all for coming. This meeting's adjourned. Mm-hmm.